601 Focus. Fantasy Focus.
Welcome into the Friday edition of the Fantasy Focus Football Podcast, previewing all games and all things in Week 5. Field, Matthew, and Star. Stephania Bell.
No. I want you to bring it in. Thirsty Kyle, come here. So Thirsty Kyle, see, here's Thirsty Kyle. Come here. Thirsty Kyle, so everyone can see you. I want you to put it on. You brought it all the way in. Oh, yeah. Thirsty Kyle needed to bring in the whatever this is.
It's called a windscreen.
A windscreen.
Welcome to broadcasting.
You made my microphone safe now. Thank you. Always practice safe broadcasting, kids.
Heard that for a very long time. Thank you to Kyle for that.
That is Thirsty Kyle. There you go. Does a great job for us.
One of the engines of the show is Thirsty Kyle. We've got plenty of games to preview.
When's Thirsty Kyle getting married, by the way?
Next Saturday.
Is it next Saturday?
Yeah. From Saturday, you bet.
Is it next Saturday? All right.
How do you think he's feeling right now?
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. Ready for, ready. Planning's pretty much done. That's the hard part. So.
No, that's pretty much done, or is it fully
it's
done?
like a week before the wedding, so hopefully the planning's close to almost being done.
We're in a good spot.
There's always planning up until the event itself.
What's left to do?
Showing up. Like I hear that's important.
Do you have what you're wearing picked out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty traditional there.
Did you write your vows already? Do you have all that written out?
Written and memorized, so we're good there.
Memorized.
Oh, memorized. Do them for us now.
I'm not doing them now.
Just let us
be great
pretend
practice.
I'm Marissa.
No one's listening. Marissa.
No one's listening.
Marissa, sorry.
That's all good.
No, because she might hear it, because, if she
Marissa does not listen. She downloads only.
She definitely does not listen.
I'm not 100% sure she downloads, but we'll give her credit.
Oh, wow. She didn't even download.
Smart.
That'll change. Once you're married, that'll change.
Well, that's fine.
It'll change. Don't worry. In the meantime, keep your vows to yourself. Let's get to the football.
Rewind. Fantasy news
from the National Football League.
This is the instant replay.
Good Thursday night football matchup. The Seahawks get the win at home. What a crazy finish that was. Greg Zuerlein misses the last-second kick that secures the victory for the Seahawks. What? Did I say something wrong?
You said absolutely nothing wrong. I was just like, the Rams should have won that game. The Seahawks did everything possible to try to lose the game.
Oh, they did.
I mean, and then just like
seriously, from a Chris Carson fourth down where he tried to drop a pass that could not have been an easier catch.
No.
The simplest touchdown of his life. He attempted to drop it.
I know, and then he
managed to
take
it
down
but
with
it's relatively amazing how he caught it.
Very nonchalant to pirouette after bobbling it. Yeah, pretty impressive. Anyways,
I
thought you were going to tell me you're playing against Greg. You're starting Greg Zuerlein against somebody.
I like Greg Zuerlein.
Greg the leg.
Fantasy-wise, Greg the leg, Legatron.
All right,
that's not a guy that you usually expect to miss, and
not from 44 yards either.
Listen, I was rooting for the Rams there, so I feel bad for the Rams.
Second time that a delay of game. Now again, the Rams ended up picking the yardage back up, but it feels like the delay of games we've seen in back-to-back weeks, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago for their Bucks, but still, don't take delay of games late, children. Always get as many yards as possible. That's my nuanced expert take right there. Gerald Everett, though, was really good last night.
Hey, Kyle, is that in your vows?
No, it didn't make the final cut.
Are you
that
sure?
was in the rough draft.
Rough draft for sure.
I promised never to take a delay of game.
Yeah, no, I got a time clock, so I had to be efficient with it.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Gerald Everett was awesome last night for the Rams. 7 catches, 136 yards. I thought he scored, to be honest with you. There was a play where he reached over the goal line. It was called that he was down at like the 6-inch line. The Rams didn't challenge, and Todd Gurley scored in the next play.
As somebody who has a lot of Todd Gurley, thank you, Coach McVay, for not challenging it, because I have to agree with you.
I thought that
was a touchdown.
Scored.
Yeah.
I thought he did too. I was just like, come on, don't challenge.
Right.
Give it to Gurley. So
it worked out in your favor in that regard.
It did indeed, because it usually goes the other way in fantasy. It usually goes the other way, they don't challenge it, and you're like, come on, that was my guy.
It's actually amazing that you've stuck with fantasy for so long as you have. Not a single thing has broken in your favor in your 62 years of playing fantasy football. By year 63,
one of these days,
one of these days, quarterbacks hit their stride in year 6. Fantasy analysts hit their stride in year 63.
I tell you, one of these years, fantasy is going to work out for me. I'm telling you. I can just
plugging away, kid.
I believe in it. I believe I'm going to keep plugging away.
15-plus points in Gerald Everett. Is this something that, he's available in 97% of leagues? They put the 49ers next week in a massive game. Should he be a player that should be a top 15 tight end in terms of weekly ranks, you think?
All right, to be clear, field, you write the free agent fines column. This is more of a decision for you. But yes, you're asking for advice from me. I understand. I get it. I will write the column for you.
I'm trying to get you back.
I will write the column for you. I will do your work for you. I do it for everyone else. I might as well do it for you as well. Yes, I think this is sort of a thing. First off, the tight end position is so brutal.
It is. Although it's getting kind of better this year.
It's getting a little bit better, but generally speaking, it's been pretty brutal this year. So anyone with a pulse, I think, deserves to be rostered. Gerald Everett suddenly has a pulse. 5 catches on 8 targets for 44 yards and a touchdown last week against Tampa Bay. Now 7 for 136 on 10 targets. Okay. He outsnapped Tyler Higbee 56-37 last night. So not quite twice as much, but, a pretty favorable matchup there. Now, listen, I think some of this was fueled by a couple of different things. Okay. I mean, I think from last night's game, first off, Seattle's corners played really well. Also, Brandon Cooks, they managed to take Brandon Cooks out of this game. Cooks didn't really do much.
And Robert Woods for the most part.
And Robert Woods, right. And then, so it felt like where they were having success attacking was the middle of the field, so it was a big game for Cooper Kupp, my little Cooper Kupp, and also Gerald Everett, obviously, as well. The Seahawks coming into that game, 9th most fantasy points allowed to opposing tight ends, although in fairness, a lot of that was Vance McDonald, right? So it's all small sample size. But yes, I think Gerald Everett, who, remember, Sean McVay inherited Tyler Higbee. Gerald Everett is a guy that he drafted.
The first player ever drafted after hiring Sean McVay back in 2017. It's a little bit simpler than that for me. They've played back-to-back shootouts. The defense has been bad in back-to-back weeks. By dint of that, they're going to throw the football a ton. 68 attempts for Jared Goff last week. I don't know exactly how many there was last night, but there were a lot.
117 passes for Goff over the last 2 weeks.
So they're throwing the football a lot, and now Brandon Cooks is injured. It's not going to be more 2 tight end sets. It might just be Josh Reynolds steps up if Brandon Cooks is not active next week. But to your point, good athlete, you have a pulse, you have a chance at tight end.
And you're in a fantasy-friendly offense that is going to throw a lot. Because here's the thing, I get it. They were 2 shootouts. The Seahawks and Tampa Bay Buccaneers are good offenses, but are we convinced that they're not going to be in shootouts? I mean, this is a good offense. So again, I mean, listen, I don't know that Gerald Everett has 10 for 136. This may be his best game of the season, but are you telling me, should he be in your free agent fines column next week? Yes, I think he should be.
Spoiler alert, Gerald Everett will make the free agent fines column for week 6.
Once again, doing his work for him.
So what's hard?
Do you need me to host the show? Do you need me to do that as well?
Yeah, please step in. Yeah, grab a windscreen and you can have it.
All right,
a lime green windscreen.
Got it. Fair enough. All right, Stephania.
Fantasy football. Yeah. So fantasy football can be difficult in some ways. Not to say that our job, listen, we love what we do, but there are elements of it that can be very difficult. Sometimes it's difficult when you have a player who was injured and understanding how much he might play. Sometimes it's difficult when he has a really bad matchup and wondering how he'll fare against an opponent. Where it gets really tricky.
I got to be honest with you. The first part where you said, hey, a player's injured and you're not sure how much he will play, that's easy for me. I just say, hey, Stephania, how much is so-and-so going to play? And she tells me. Do you not talk to Stephania?
Well,
because I have to tell you, that's a helpful hint just from me to you. Literally just ask Stephania. She knows this stuff.
Where I was getting at, though, is what makes things really difficult is trying to figure out how much a coach is going to utilize a player when he's not injured.
Right.
The matchup isn't bad at all, and the player that he is sharing work with has been the second best running back in fantasy football. So the expectations for Chargers running back Melvin Gordon in what should be his first game back on Sunday, we expect him to play against the Broncos, are hard to say with certainty.
Sure.
To be clear, we do a lot of guessing in this sport, but sometimes we feel it gets more educated than other times. I don't have a great pulse on how things are going to play out with the Chargers on Sunday. I've got Ekeler ranked at 13th, Melvin Gordon ranked at 22nd. Does either one of you feel confident in how you think this thing will shake out this week?
I think, who does have a good pulse is Eric Williams. And just in talking
who covers the Chargers for us, does a great job.
The Chargers for us, and he says, it'll be interesting to see what Anthony Lynn says today. But he said the vibe is definitely that they don't want to do too much too soon with Melvin Gordon. So he's anticipating maybe 20 to 25 plays for Gordon.
That's good context right there. Yeah.
Maybe 10 to 15 touches. So unless that changes, that's sort of what he's estimating is going to happen with him. And I think, we heard Lynn say when he's ready, he's going to be the number one guy.
He's the guy.
But being that this will be his first time on a football field, obviously dressed last week, didn't get in there. Justin Jackson's still out. We know they're going to use him this week, but I don't think they're going to go all in. Doesn't mean that they wouldn't put him in a situation where he might score, but he's not going to be on the field the entire game, Austin Ekeler will still have a significant role.
All that said, so I think there's two conversations here. First off, what do you do this week, and then what do you do going forward? So
let's talk about this week.
Yeah, let's talk about this week for right now. So listen, I have Ekeler at 16. I have Gordon at 17. So similar to you, Field, in the fact that I have Ekeler ranked ahead of Gordon. Stephania, you're in the same boat as well. So all of us have Ekeler ranked ahead of Gordon. I have them narrower than you do. I have them just sort of right there.
Right each other,
because here's the thing. Like, if what Eric Williams is saying, like 10 to 15 touches. So if you're telling me Melvin Gordon gets double-digit touches against the Broncos' 30th ranked run defense, like, that's a top 20 play to me. To me, I believe both guys are basically RB2s this week. And it's also, listen, as we talk about, this is one of these things that, like, it'll be sort of a feel thing, right? If Melvin looks good and he's playing well and, isn't tired and, it's like they'll keep him out there. But, if all of a sudden, like, he's not fully in game shape there, then I think they will take it back. The other piece of it is, couldn't you see a scenario, and I don't think we really talked enough about this, but Dontrell Inman placed on IR this week as well. Like, and, I don't know if we're going to get Mike Williams back or not this week. But literally, other than Keenan Allen, guys, like, who is healthy for the Los Angeles Chargers? Couldn't you see a scenario where you see Austin Ekeler out wide?
No.
And Melvin Gordon?
We talk about this every year. Running backs do not become wide receivers in the middle of a week.
No. I am not saying he becomes a wide receiver. Do I think you could see a two running back set where all of a sudden Austin Ekeler goes in motion and runs a pass route out of the slot? Something like that.
He'll be involved. Yeah, he'll be involved in the passing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
That is what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think you could see a scenario where Melvin Gordon is, quote unquote, the main running back, but they involve that the Austin Ekeler is on the field at the same time as Melvin Gordon. That I'm not saying he suddenly becomes a wide receiver, but you understand what I'm saying? Like match him up against a linebacker, put him in the slot, like get him in motion. Like, I don't know. He's
basically
such a good pass catcher. They have
both
no
of
one
them
else
to be on the field at the same time.
Yes,
that's what you were saying. Yeah, I think it's possible. I don't know how many snaps. I don't think there's a lot to be drawn from last year because it was clear that it was Melvin Gordon as the guy, and Austin Ekeler is playing at a level right now that it's unfathomable for him to be benched entirely. He won't be. The question is just, if he is partially benched, does that mean, is it ever going to get to a point where Melvin Gordon is the guy unto himself? I don't think it'll be this week, and with the way that Ekeler has run so far this season, it's hard for me to imagine that it's ever like it was last season.
Are you starting Melvin Gordon this week?
I've got him at 22, so I've got him as a valuable flex play. Yeah.
Valuable flex play.
I don't have any Melvin Gordons on my rosters this year. I stayed away during the draft process.
I'm in a keeper league. I'm in a dynasty league.
I have a league where I have to start him. Yeah, just because of all my scenarios.
All your injuries, everything. Like.
And if it wasn't that particular situation, I would use him maybe as a flex play.
But I think we're all sitting here saying, just to be clear, that like if you have Ekeler, because a lot of people drafted Melvin Gordon and then grabbed Ekeler as insurance, and so you're sitting there with both guys. I think both are viable starts this week. If you want, depending on what else you have, again, look at our ranks. I think both are viable guys. Like I'd be okay starting both guys. But I think if we had to choose for at least one more week, I think it's again. I have Ekeler at 16 and
for one
Gordon
more
at 17.
Week, I do feel though I would prefer to have Austin Ekeler in my lineup over Melvin Gordon if you have both players, because some people will have both players given the uncertainty surrounding Gordon going into the season. I heard something, or I learned something new this week.
Really?
I thought rumors were statements that were made or facts that were passed. Not even facts. Things that were passed along.
Sure.
Might be true. They might be false.
Right.
That's why they're not called a fact or a lie.
They're rumors.
They're rumors.
They're rumors.
I learned though a couple days ago, maybe it was yesterday, that from Stefon Diggs, Vikings wide receiver, that there's truth to all rumors. Did you know that?
Yeah, I disagree with that statement.
Right. I don't think that's quite how. Maybe I'm wrong.
No.
Anyways,
I've heard rumors that I know for. I've heard rumors that I know for a fact are not true about certain people.
Okay, fair enough.
And so that I would disagree with Mr. Diggs' statement there.
So,
but I think as it relates to him,
right?
I think it relates.
It was more revealing about.
Right. Basically, Stefon Diggs said, "Hey, I want to be traded," without actually saying that I want to be traded, or I'm frustrated with my role, or perhaps both. Stefon Diggs is unhappy. Adam Thielen, he was also unhappy after losing last Sunday to the Bears, and they were terrible offensively. Again, this is sort of a non-injury, non-matchup question, but two players that are frustrated. Can things get right this week? As in, will the Vikings pass enough in Week 5 against the Giants to return top 20 value for Adam Thielen and Stefon Diggs? They're two of the 20 best pass catchers in football. They are two of the 20 best tight ends in football, wide receivers in football. Easy enough for me to say.
Whatever.
Kirk Cousins is making $28 million a season.
Yeah.
There is so much that this offense should be able to do that it has not done. It's a great matchup against the Giants. So I ask the question simply, Matthew. Are they going to throw the football enough? Are they going to listen to their wide receivers and adjust accordingly and make them happy? Because what they've done so far has been fine, but it certainly wasn't enough last week, and it certainly wasn't enough in their other loss to the Packers earlier on this season.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the bigger key, more than just them chirping. If they were 4-0, I think this isn't as
no problem.
Right, but they're 2-2.
Yeah.
And they're suddenly in a hell of a tough division. Obviously, the Packers off to a hot start. The Lions look a lot better.
They're good, yeah.
Sorry, Daniel, but I hate to admit that in front of you, but the Lions look legit. Like, kudos to Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. They clearly are headed in the right direction. And then you've got Chicago that obviously just beat them, right? So you think about the Vikings, who are attempting less pass attempts per game this year than even the Seattle Seahawks did last year. Right. Remember last year, of course, Seattle, the run heaviest team in the NFL. So to answer your question very simply, I believe yes. I'm a believer, and my career is certainly evidence of this. I'm a believer that squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
Yes.
And
Whatever do you mean?
Well, I'll explain it to you afterwards, Stephania.
Okay.
But no, listen, I believe the squeaky wheel gets the grease. I believe they need to do something here. This is certainly the right matchup to get it done. Adam Thielen made my love list this week, right? So think about the Giants. They've allowed the second most deep touchdowns, the second most yards per deep attempt, and the third most deep yards this season. That bodes well not only for Adam Thielen, who has 8 of Minnesota's 13 deep targets so far this season, but also for Stefon Diggs, who is terrific with a deep ball as well. If you can get even the slightest bit of volume in this game here, Field, right? Stefon Diggs has 31 career games where he's gotten 5 or more catches, I should say. He's gotten over 11 fantasy points in 27 of those 31 games. Like, if you can get Stefon Diggs the ball, good things are going to happen. And so, again, Giants allow 9.3 yards per pass attempt. Only the Dolphins have been worse. They allow 13.6 yards per completion. That's second worst in the NFL. They're allowing a touchdown on 6.3% of passes. That's 8th worst in the NFL. Like, how many more stats do you need? I got a zillion of these.
So here's the thing, though. It's not about the stats of the other team. It's about what the Vikings themselves
I understand
are doing.
that.
So,
I believe squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Right,
I believe Kirk Cousins is hearing the criticism, wants to get these guys the ball.
But I think it's less about Kirk Cousins and more about the play calling. And
I agree with that.
Normally I would say Mike Zimmer, who is tough and stubborn, and by the way, has earned that right. He has been a very good coach in this league for a long time, and not just defensively, but more recently as a head coach.
Sure.
Normally I'd say he probably sits there and says, I don't care. We're going to do whatever it is that we need to do to win. I think it's gotten to a boiling point this week, where I think, and we all agree, they're going to throw the football more, and both of these players are going to emerge much happier on Sunday than they were this past Sunday, which I know that's not saying much, but I think some of this noise can be dissipated
by
just doing what they should do.
And also, Kirk Cousins has not been good, but he also hasn't been throwing that much. And I feel like if there's a chance to get your quarterback with some confidence, this is the week.
This is a good week to do it. Let's
The argument would be like, they're going to get it big and they're not going to need to throw. I know they're not going to need to throw, but they're going to be able to throw. And I think that's important just for the confidence of all those players there. Because, again, you think about the depth chart in Minnesota, they need Stefon Diggs. Like, all due respect to Chad Beebe, right? I mean, and Laquan Treadwell, who's back for his second tour of duty with the team. Like, they need Adam Thielen, Stefon Diggs. They don't have much behind those two guys, with the exception of, Kyle Rudolph, and Irv Smith has had some nice flashes here. But yeah, I think both guys are happy. I am starting both guys if I have them without hesitation. By the way, I know you want to move on, but that's a great stat that Thirsty Kyle just threw up on the screen. That's an amazing stat.
There are 8 teams averaging more completions per game than the Vikings are attempting per game through the air this season.
There are 8 teams that average more completions than the Vikings are averaging pass attempts. That's unbelievable. So
pretty good. Top 5 injury question marks for the weekend, Stephania. There are many more, but these are to us the most pertinent and most important ones. Let's begin in Indianapolis. T.Y. Hilton did not play last week. Huge game on Sunday night. And if the Colts have any chance of beating the Chiefs, I think it kind of hinges upon having T.Y. Hilton on the field.
Yeah, and I think maybe saving him last week from himself. This is a guy who always wants to play. We know that when he's hurt. But I think that move last week to sit him is going to help them this week. Back in limited practice on Thursday. So that's the first time he's really practiced since aggravating his quad in week 3. I think this is a very good sign. We'll see what he does today, but I expect that you'll see him out there. And then his teammate, Marlon Mack, on the injury report because of his ankle. I think people think this is the same thing from before. It's not. He hurt his ankle in last week's game. He ended up leaving the game, didn't play at all in the fourth quarter. He said he felt like he could have gone back in, didn't think it was serious. They haven't practiced him at all this week, but I think that's just a preservation for Marlon Mack. I expect him to play on Sunday as well.
Remember, he did not practice until Friday of a previous week when he was injured. So
right.
to your point,
different injury,
they are
though,
smart.
so I wouldn't.
I know, but I'm saying in terms of the pattern of not practicing Wednesday, Thursday, and still playing on Sunday.
I would just be cautious about, applying it to a different injury.
Let's get to the heart of this, Matthew.
Yeah.
T.Y. Hilton, Marlon Mack, Kansas City have to score to keep up with them. Frank Reich has talked about being aggressive this weekend.
Yeah.
Both of these players, if they play, seem to be in an excellent spot because T.Y. Hilton in that passing offense should be able to move the football. Yep. And Marlon Mack is now going against the worst running defense in terms of yards per carry allowed so far this season. Both of them could be in for monster nights if this game stays even relatively close.
Yeah, I mean, and the team, the Colts, have just become so run-heavy, which it makes sense when you have an offensive line that plays as well as the Colts has so far this year. You've got to do it. So far this year in 2019, when the game's been within a touchdown, when it's been within 7 points, they're rushing at the 5th highest rate in the NFL. And again, like you think about Josh Jacobs or Mark Ingram or KeeSean Johnson, those 3 guys averaged over 100 rushing yards. Just rushing yards, forget passing, over 100 rushing yards against the Chiefs this year. So a healthy Marlon Mack would be exciting. The only concern here, Field, it's the Sunday night game. And so if we don't know, now usually we'll get a sense. So the fact that Stephania's saying confidence, and we'll see if maybe they practice even in a limited fashion today, that would be good. And, there's always, and by the way, and, Adam Schefter does such a great job, like the Saturday night news dump, like, he'll be like, expected to play. Like, I think
he'll have a good sense by Sunday morning.
He's usually 99.9% correct on those. But it is still the Sunday night game, so there's always a chance. I will say that, like, I have grabbed Jordan Wilkins in a few deeper leagues just in case.
Just in case.
Especially because, by the way, remember, Marlon Mack had the hamstring injury last year. He's already been banged up a couple of times this year. Look, whoever's the starting running back for the Colts is going to have value behind that line.
So what I would say is that if Marlon Mack plays, and it sounds like he will, I am rolling out Marlon Mack. And what I am hoping for more than anything else is this. The defense shows up on Sunday night, because the last time these two teams played was in the playoffs last year, and the game got out of hand. Now, totally different circumstances. It was snowing. Adam Vinatieri missed early kicks that could have at least kept the game slightly more competitive. A little bit different, or much different atmosphere than what it will be on Sunday night. But as we've seen with the Chiefs, when the game is tight, you can run the football. But if the game gets out of hand and you're down 30 points at halftime, well, then all of a sudden the value for Marlon Mack decreases. But I think they'll keep it close enough that he's still worth it.
And if the last thing I'll just add here is that if I had to pick a Colts pass catcher to play that wasn't T.Y. Hilton, if you were to out, I guess I would say Zach Pascal, who you talked about last week.
Back-to-back touchdowns. Yep. So wide receiver 28 over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Throw a little dart.
Yeah.
Starfania, we have the same game, different side of the ball, bunch of injuries. LeSean McCoy, Damien Williams, Tyreek Hill. Other than that, I don't think anybody else in Kansas City.
I know. Well, we already seen LeSean McCoy play through the ankle, so I think you already know that you're going to expect to see him out there. He was limited Wednesday, but upgraded to full on Thursday, so not really any question marks around McCoy's availability. Damien Williams, a knee contusion that's kept him out for a couple weeks, back in practice Wednesday. And the very first practice he has, he's a full participant. The big deal was, would he be able to do that back-to-back, or would his knee bother him? Was able to go full both days. So Damien Williams looking very good for Sunday night. I expect him to play. Tyreek Hill's been out there running routes, catching passes. Everybody's excited to see him back out there. But the main thing with this kind of injury is, will he be cleared for contact? Andy Reid's been non-committal about his status for Sunday night. I think the Chiefs ultimately are fairly transparent when it comes to the end of the week. So I think you're going to have a better idea by the end of today. Although, they could list him as questionable just to leave it up in the air. But that's the main thing for Tyreek Hill, is will he be cleared for contact? No matter how good he looks in practice, that's going to be the deciding factor.
Informed opinion from me is that Tyreek Hill will not play on Sunday night. The good news is, as we were just talking about with Marlon Mack, you should have a great sense of this one by Sunday morning. If we get news Sunday morning that Tyreek Hill is going to play, it's obvious you're playing him. But I have not ranked him. Stephania has not ranked him. Matthew currently has him in his rankings.
There's no reason to rush this back, especially with the severity of what he actually experienced and the Chiefs being somewhat conservative.
And if we haven't seen it, they kind of have a couple pieces of depth that seem to be pretty good, right?
They got these other guys.
I ranked him because I'm the optimist
YOLO.
among us.
Right, you're just because, you,
well,
Mr.
like people want to know, like,
Mr.
if
Ray
he were to
Light,
play, where
Mr.
would you
Power
rank
of
him?
Positivity.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see if we get more news.
Right,
and
we'll
I'll
have
take him
news,
out.
but about the running backs, because we do have some disparate rankings here, and some of this might just be where we are right now. So Matthew has both Damien Williams and LeSean McCoy in his top 18. Stephania has LeSean McCoy ranked much higher than Damien Williams. I'm the inverse.
Yeah.
So one of the three of us is bound to be right.
I swear, I actually.
And the other two are wrong.
No,
Right.
but I mean, I haven't changed those rankings because I was waiting to see what happened with Damien Williams, and I will probably flip those.
Okay. So you and I feel as though Damien Williams would be the running back that we would play if we had the option. Not that
I wanted
everybody's
to see
choosing
2
between
full
the two of
days
them. Okay.
To make sure that he would be able to have that kind of workload.
And Matthew, you just think they're both going ham. Like you think this is going to be points of Palooza.
Yeah, I really do. I mean, so look, the Colts are the worst red zone defense in the NFL so far this year, right? They're giving up, they have a 75% touchdown allowed rate. Okay. They're allowing a league high 3.77 yards per carry before first contact so far this year. Right? And then you think about they're not great against pass catching running backs either as well. So they're one of the worst teams in the NFL since the start of last year in that statistic. So Damien Williams, who, remember, last year against the Colts in the playoffs, 30 for 154 and a touchdown. 30 touches, 154 total yards, and a touchdown against the Colts in the playoffs last year. This is I think this is the highest over-under on the slate by a significant margin.
Sure.
I mean, I think you just want as much of this game as you can get. I think people forget because, he's been out for a couple of weeks, but through the first 2 weeks of the season, Damien Williams, actually 6th among running backs in both catches and receiving yards. McCoy, look, I don't love to admit this. McCoy's looked good.
Yeah,
McCoy has looked good. Darrell Williams scored 2 touchdowns. Like, give me an Andy Reid running back in this game. And so our expectation as we sit here on Friday morning is that it's going to be Damien Williams and LeSean McCoy. So, yes, I have both guys as top 20 plays on
Let's
Sunday.
keep this moving here. James Conner and JuJu Smith-Schuster for the Steelers, Stephania, both not practicing so far this week. How about Vance McDonald, too?
Yeah,
some
I know.
concerns there in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, they are banged up in Pittsburgh. And James Conner, will start with him, injured his ankle in that game against the Bengals. Missed practice Wednesday and Thursday, as you mentioned, but it does seem like he is going to play. So, again, resting him, it sounds like he will play. Obviously, you want to see what he does in today's practice. JuJu actually hurt his toe early in the game against the Bengals, but they sound hopeful that he's going to play. Brooke Pryor, our new NFL Nation reporter up in Pittsburgh for the Steelers, said that their offensive coordinator, Randy Fichtner, expects that he will play. So they're very hopeful that they have JuJu back. Don't forget, he got rolled up on in week 1 and actually hurt that toe the first time. So something to keep an eye on. And Vance McDonald, I don't think you're going to see him not practicing still with that shoulder injury.
All right, so Matthew, let's focus in, based off of that intel, let's focus in on James Conner because it sounds like that was Vance McDonald. It sounds unlikely, but it's a tight end, and there's probably less of a pressure point on like who do you replace your tight end with than there would be if James Conner sits. He's a first-round pick in a lot of people's on a lot of people's roster. If he sits, it's got to be simple. I mean, Jalen Samuel becomes what, a top 15 play this week, top 10 play.
Yeah, easy. And then you see, and I think you'll see some Benny Snell. But I mean, Jalen Samuels was, nothing short of terrific last week. Looked good. James Conner, I'm nervous about him, right? I mean, even if he plays, like I have him ranked outside the top 10. Look, I have James Conner in the War Room League. I'm super nervous about this.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, to be, very candid, right? I mean, here's a guy that hasn't had more than 13 carries in a game so far this season, has yet to have 45 rushing yards in a game this season. Now, they're using him more in the passing game. 8 for 83 on Monday night, both career highs. He's had at least 4 targets in every game this season. Sure, you're excited about that. But, the offensive line of the Steelers, which I think a lot of people thought was going to be a strength of that team coming into the season, has not performed up to expectations.
Yep.
And so, fantasy points wise, you're happy. And James Conner looked better on Monday night than he ever has all season long. But I don't know. I don't feel great about this. I don't feel great about it. It's not a great matchup against the Ravens, who are the 10th best run defense in the NFL so far this year, even though, Nick Chubb just ran all over him last week.
Hopefully Brandon Williams is back for them.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, right?
Yep.
So that would make a big difference. But yeah, I'm nervous about James Conner because, by the way, even if he plays, it was basically an even split between him and Jalen Samuels on Monday night. In terms of snaps played and touches, and so
sure, yeah, no, I get it, and we'll see if that type of offense continues to persist and work.
I'm not convinced
Felt
on
more
that.
like a 1 week. Let's get our confidence going.
Also, because, by the way, Field, I mean, you just sort of think about how this game plays out. It's one thing to just, beat the crap out of Cincinnati at home, Monday night crowd, and from it. It's another thing to go to play the game's in Pittsburgh, but it's another thing to play the Ravens. Sure. And I don't know that offense.
And by the way, an angry Ravens team. Very angry
Ravens team.
One of my sneaky sleeper streaming defenses of the week. We'll talk about other streamers later on, but the Ravens defense. I know they've been bad, but sneaky gut check. Play with pride week,
especially against
a bad Steelers offense,
bad and banged up Steelers offense, where they're certainly if what Mason Rudolph has done so far is any indication, they're not chucking it. They're not taking deep shots. It's going to be all dink and dunk and close to the line of scrimmage here. So I am nervous about James Conner. I have him as an RB2 if he plays. I agree with you though. If James Conner is out, Jalen Samuels an easy top 15 play. And by the way, if for somehow he's still available in your league, he shouldn't be. But if for somehow he still is, he needs to be rostered in 100% of leagues because James Conner is rostered in 100% of leagues.
Just quickly on JuJu, he does make the hate list, which is separate and apart from the health, Matthew. Just there are some concerning signs so far that you've seen this season.
Well, I mean, so first off, Mason Rudolph averaged 3.5 air yards per target.
He had 3
and again,
catches.
we just talked about it, dink and dunk. So week 3, JuJu had that 76-yard touchdown, right, which was amazing. Okay, and so, but in the other 11 targets that he's gotten from Mason Rudolph when Mason Rudolph has been a starter, so the last 2 weeks, 20 yards. And so the concern is does JuJu get shadow coverage from Marlon Humphrey in this game, right? So, I mean, Humphrey last week shadowed Odell Beckham Jr., kept him to 2 for 20. Now, JuJu plays a lot of his snaps out of the slot. Humphrey sometimes goes in the slot. He followed Beckham to the slot last week. He doesn't always. So it remains to be seen. But I sort of feel like if I'm the Ravens, I'm like, yeah, I'll take my chances with Deontay Johnson, or James Washington. You're following JuJu everywhere he goes.
All right, so Tevin Coleman, this 49ers play on Monday night, Stephania. They begin their practice week sort of officially with a practice report on Thursday.
Right.
This is a tough one because they don't play until Monday night. But do you have any sense on whether he'll be back in the lineup?
Kyle Shanahan has certainly been making it sound like they expect to have Tevin Coleman back.
Good.
He actually went into the bye week for the 49ers talking about the expectation that Tevin Coleman would return this week. So none of this really comes as a surprise. The toughest part is going to be assume that Tevin Coleman comes back. He's been out since week 1 with the high ankle sprain. Now, how does the shift work in terms of workload between the running backs? I think Raheem Mostert is going to be odd man out a little bit here. It'll be primarily Coleman and Breida handling the workload. But as to who gets more, I think to some extent it's going to be a matter of seeing what happens with Tevin Coleman when he gets back in a game.
The $1 million question was right there as who plays and how much do they play? It sounds like we'll have Tevin Coleman, which is good. Mm-hmm. But Matthew, I mean, can you really start or Matt Breida with any level of confidence?
No. I mean, you can start them. I think they're viable flex plays against Cleveland, but with any level of confidence, no. I mean, first off, all 4 running backs, we didn't even mention Jeff Wilson Jr., who has had 72%.
Back, yeah.
Right. 72% of his carries this year have come in the red zone.
Yeah.
So you think about Mostert, who's played well, Breida, who's played well, Coleman, who not only played well early on, but has the, what do you want to call it, the history with Kyle Shanahan, and who was signed to a, nice deal in the offseason to come in and play for Kyle once again in San Francisco. So, yeah, I mean, I ranked them, Coleman, Breida, Mostert. But could we see Mostert inactive and you see Jeff Wilson Jr. in
Mostert will not be inactive. He's your best special teams player.
I mean, that's
but he
what I'm
won't
saying.
do as much in the
right. Well, inactive is in he won't play an offense. Probably.
Right.
He will definitely be on the field on Sunday. He's an outstanding special
so,
teams player.
I misspoke in terms of inactive.
Sure.
But I mean, just so I mean, like, will he be not used? Will he be, the odd man out, as it were? Like, so, but, do they dress all 4 running backs? It's a tough situation. Kyle Shanahan just traditionally does not help us out. In this guy, he likes to.
He's enjoying the committee. It's been working well for them.
Yeah, so I don't know why they were
not going away from it.
They're the anti-Redskins. They're 3-0.
Every team is the anti-Redskins. I mean, it's truly. But look, here's a team that leads. The positives, though, is that they're successful enough at running the ball that both guys, Breida and Coleman, could be very viable flex plays. Again, remember, 49ers lead the NFL in rush percentage so far this year. They're averaging the 7th most yards per carry before first contact. That offensive line has played very well for them. And so, it's not a matchup that particularly scares you. Browns are a bottom 12 run defense so far this year. Yeah. So, but again, confidence, no. I have no confidence in being able to say, like, you've got to play this guy versus that guy. Breida and Coleman are flex plays.
Let's talk Cowboys. Dak Prescott minus Tyron Smith. We don't normally talk about offensive linemen, but this guy is a difference maker.
Yep.
So, Stephania, the latest on Tyron Smith, and then also Michael Gallup, who should be back, we think, after what we talked about yesterday on the podcast.
Yeah, we know that Tyron Smith will not play this week. Now, he had what was initially termed a high ankle sprain, but then testing revealed that the injury was not as serious as they first thought. So that's good news for the Cowboys. They're actually hopeful that he can play in week 6. So this week, Dak will be without his protector on the left side, but they're hoping that he will be back the following week. Michael Gallup, you guys know, has been out with recovering from knee surgery, had an arthroscopic knee surgery to deal with a meniscus tear. Now back in practice. And what's interesting is he was supposed to work out on the side Wednesday and not really participate in practice, but he looked so good and was feeling so good, they actually let him get some reps in practice. And then they wanted to see, could he come back and do it again Thursday? Listed is limited both days, and the team hasn't really given us a feel for whether they're ready to put him out there. But if you just look at like how good Gallup said he felt, how great his teammates said he looked, I think there's a chance that he plays this week. They might still be conservative in utilizing him, though, coming off surgery so recently.
Good news there on Michael Gallup. I am not, so Matthew, there are some alarming stats of Tyron Smith when he's on the field versus when he's off the field.
Correct.
What it means for Dak Prescott. I'm throwing him out.
And
totally different offense.
I was just going to say,
much better wide receivers.
Right.
Different level of play from Dak. I get it, but if you're concerned about Dak, my concern is not as simple as, hey, Tyron Smith is not playing on Sunday. It's that maybe you're concerned just that this Green Bay defense is really good. But we all have him as a top 10 play, so I don't think we need to overthink Dak that much.
No, I mean, look, he made the, quote, hate list, and that's always because of, like, I'm taking the under on his projection. Like, again, to your point, I ranked him 10th so far this week. You know, he's now at 9 after Russell Wilson has been taken out of the ranks. But so yes, I still have him as a starter this week. But for his career without Tyron Smith in the lineup, he averages 12% less fantasy points. I get it. He hasn't had Kellen Moore as his offensive coordinator.
Yep.
He hasn't had Amari Cooper for some of those games, right?
I don't think any of those games, yeah.
I think Smith has missed 1 or 2 with Cooper there. But anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, yes, it's a better offensive system. It's a better bunch of better players around him. But for me, the bigger concern here is that you think about this Packers defense to this point. Like, their secondary is terrific. Their secondary is terrific, and their run defense is brutal.
Right.
Again, we just saw that Jordan Howard run for 3 touchdowns, right? So I think, especially because we haven't had a big Ezekiel Elliott game, I think at home, I think Zeke eats. Yeah. I think Zeke, to me, very well could be the number 1 running back in fantasy this week. You know what I mean?
Certainly has a great matchup so far. Green Bay's had very little resistance.
I just feel like there's not going to be a big need for Dak to have to air it out here, especially given how good the Cowboys defense has played as well. So I think this is kind of more of a low-scoring game. I think it's a bit of a conservative game. I think it's a huge Ezekiel Elliott game. So that's why I have Dak at 9, lower than I normally would.
I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You ever feel like ticketing websites make getting to the event difficult on purpose?
Dude, all the time.
Me too. It's as if they're so big they can get away with not caring about the customer experience.
Totally.
The real question is, how easy could it be if those ticketing sites actually cared?
Oh, man,
like
so
I care
easy.
about you. With millions of live events, tickets, and a price match guarantee, SeatGeek proves there's a better way. Search sports, live music, comedy, and more, including The Lion King in Boston, which I'm going to in a couple of weeks. Can't wait.
Nice. Have you ever seen it?
I have, yes. Not in Boston. I've seen it in London, so I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Look at you.
Oh!
I'm very cultured.
You're so fit.
Cheerio!
Yeah. SeatGeek has tickets you're looking for and all in one place. In an industry that tends to stagnate, SeatGeek decided to stand out from the crowd. They built the fastest way to find tickets, so you can stop searching for the perfect seat and start just enjoying it. SeatGeek does this by pulling millions of tickets together from all over the web. Then it rates each of those tickets with a deal on a scale of 1 to 10. Finally, SeatGeek displays them on an interactive seat map. SeatGeek breaks down the details. Green dots, those are good. Red dots, those are overpriced. And every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop for tickets with confidence. Seriously, like when I went and found the Lion King tickets, I was like, I'm doing it. SeatGeek gave me the confidence to go out there and make it worth it. Can't wait for that show in Boston in a couple weeks. SeatGeek will even give you $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. All you need to do is use our promo code, download the SeatGeek app today, and use that promo code of FFF for $10 off on your first purchase. That's promo code FFF for $10 off on your first purchase. All right, we did this, a different version of this. It's not quite, well, you know what it is? It is love-hate, basically. But let's start with some downgrades here for this week. And
matchup downgrades.
Yeah, just
players
not
here
the player,
downgrading because of their
who
matchup.
they're facing off. And we have two players, same position,
Yes, sir.
same game, all over in London. Once again, Josh Jacobs.
Try that again.
London?
One more time.
London. London.
You sound like you're from London.
You sound like you're from London.
That's also not great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know what? Then you try it,
No,
Mr.
no,
No!
I would.
Love.
Sorry, I'm sorry I even
Apparently
suggested
they
it.
scream. Apparently
We've
they
made this worse.
scream
We've
in
made
London.
this worse.
Stefan,
Josh,
you do
I'm
a
not.
British accent. Go ahead.
Because no.
Go ahead.
No. Carry on.
Josh Jacobs for the Raiders
get it.
has a big matchup on Sunday.
Josh Jacobs is healthy.
Josh Jacobs and the Raiders, they play the
Yep.
Chicago Bears
That
on
was
Sunday.
Stefania's British.
I believe they played in Tottenham.
Yep.
Tottenham.
Don't know the location, but to my knowledge, it's a sort of Australian British hybrid.
I know. This is what
Nobody
happens.
cares.
They
Come
Let's
on,
just bail.
Fields,
Let's just
lock it
bail
up.
right now.
Anyways,
Shrimp on the Barbie is what.
Josh Jacobs and the Raiders.
Can anyone back there do one? Can anyone? No, Daniel.
Nobody.
Thirsty Kyle. No. Not
We
cool,
are a
Keith.
pathetic
Getting a bunch of no's.
podcast.
No.
Josh Jacobs
Awful. We're
plays
all
against
terrible.
the Bears on Sunday, and David Montgomery plays against the Raiders. So two players, same position. You're downgrading both of them, Matthew, because of this matchup. The Josh Jacobs one does not surprise people. The Bears are awesome. Maybe the David Montgomery one, though, does a little bit. You buy her in this Raiders run defense?
I mean, to be candid, I don't think I would have. I didn't choose this. I wouldn't have put David Montgomery as somebody I'm downgrading because of a matchup.
Okay.
Against the Raiders. I mean,
So tell us
I
more.
will say this. If there's something here, I mean, to the extent there is a strength of the Raiders defense, I think it is their run defense.
Okay.
I mean, like, whatever. Their pass defense is brutal. Their run defense is basically middle of the pack, right? And listen, they're allowing just 3.94 yards per carry. That's 11th best in the NFL.
Yep.
So David Montgomery, who has yet to rush for 70 yards in a game so far this season,
Yep.
who's been held to under 3.5 yards per carry in 3 out of 4 games so far this year. Just, I don't know how much confidence you have in David Montgomery. For me, the concern here is like he's going to need to score. Because while the usage has been sort of all over the map, and they're going to use some Tyreek Cohen here, and it's a slow offense in Chicago. It's a slow offense in Oakland as well. So I mean, these are two of the slower paced teams in the NFL, and so I just don't know. I don't expect this to be a high scoring game. I feel like this is kind of a slugfest, and the Bears just use so many different players. Like again, I have Montgomery, basically as a high end flex, lower end RB2 sort of in there. I just don't think I think they're going to be, the expectation is people are sitting there going like, oh, Montgomery's playing the Raiders, boom, automatically in. I don't think he's an automatic start. I don't think he has earned that yet based on what we've seen so far, because again, the usage has just sort of been all over the place.
You know something, Matthew? That's
if there was
totally fair.
if there was ever the game for him to break out, this is it.
Well, I certainly hope so, because we've been waiting, and I know we talked about this a bunch throughout the past couple of weeks, but like we expected a lot from David Montgomery, and maybe we took the cheese, or we decided that it was worth investing as much as we did in David Montgomery because of preseason buzz. Not that the preseason does not matter, but that sometimes it can be misleading. Maybe David Montgomery will prove to be that because the Bears still have good balance in their backfield. Tyreek Cohen, as you just mentioned, has been a useful player. Mike Davis was effective earlier on this season. I'm just excited to work on my British accent over the next 2 days until this game begins on Sunday at 1 p.m. 1 p.m. East Coast time. No early kickoff, by the way, for those that are hopeful for a 13-hour marathon football day on Sunday.
Matthew, are you saying there will be no cucumber sandwich? I can't.
She was bracing for that for so long, too.
She was trying so hard. She just couldn't keep it together.
I was like, I'm just going to surprise Matthew with a cucumber sandwich.
With a cucumber sandwich. I appreciate the effort.
I
Good job,
deliver.
good effort.
All right.
Good job, good effort.
Let's go to, so you do, Matthew, you do have real, wide receiver, matchup upgrades and downgrades. You just call them love-hate during the week. So let's get to 3 loves and 3 hates in some sort of rapid-fire fashion. Let's begin with a quarterback that you love this week, Matthew, which is Jameis Winston.
And to be honest, Field, I was going to choose Jacoby Brissett here, but he's coming up later in the show because I've talked about Jameis so much, he's been on the love list before. He's been on the hate list before. This week he makes the love, going at the Saints, right? You think about New Orleans, who allows over 24 fantasy points per game to opposing quarterbacks, second most in the NFL. Only the Dolphins have been worst, right? He's been a top 5 quarterback now in consecutive weeks. And then the Saints, who should be able to score here as well. They allow 6.3 yards per play this season, 5th most in the NFL. They have the 10th lowest interception percentage. So, turnovers, which is always sort of a bugaboo for Winston as well. I think he'll be okay here. So, give me Jameis Winston in what should be a high-scoring game. I certainly like Jameis this week. I have him as a top 10 play.
There you go. How about Sony Michel for the Patriots? People are saying there's no way you can start Sony Michel, can you?
Yeah, listen, I know everyone's panicking on Sony Michel, and I get it because he's been brutal. But here's what you like about Sony Michel. They haven't gone away from him. At least 15 carries in 3 out of 4 games so far this year, right? So the volume's been here, and I think you'll win a bar bet with this one. Sony Michel leads the NFL in terms of carries inside the 10-yard line. So he's getting opportunities near the goal line.
I'm going to go to a bar and bet somebody tonight.
You should do that. Bring your ID. You will get carded. And then the other piece of it here is that my Redskins are brutal. They've allowed the 4th most rushing yards this season. Patriots are more than 2 touchdown favored in this game, and they should be favored by like 40. So my expectation is that Sony Michel, who I thought ran better last week against the Bills.
17 for 63. Some signs of life, yeah.
He looked a little bit better. So my feeling is that they know how important, that Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels know how important this run game is to the success, the long-term success of New England, and this is a get-right game.
Okay.
This is a get-right game to get the running game, the offensive line, and Sony Michel feeling good about themselves.
Certainly a good matchup to do.
Yeah, if ever there was if you said, hey, Matthew, pick one guy to score a touchdown this week, one running back, I'd pick Sony Michel.
There you go.
So there you go.
Okay, and then, last one here, Will Fuller. You love Will.
Little bit of a gut call because I get it. Like, you're like, Will Fuller? Really, Barry? Like, I was just about to drop him. I get it. But here's the thing. He missed a huge touchdown last week by literally like 6 inches. Deshaun Watson overthrew him by like just a little bit.
Yep.
So he's coming really close. Here's a guy that's gotten 6 or more targets in 3 straight games. He actually leads the Texans in routes run. He ran 39 routes with just 6 for Kenny Stills here. And then you think about the Falcons defense, which is banged up, which gave up long touchdowns to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis last week. I think Will Fuller gets right this week. He's due for a big week. I'm calling it this week against the Falcons.
I like it. There's your 3 loves, 3 hates, Matthew. And again, it's not personal hate. It's not that you think these guys can't perform. It's about the matchup and how they will perform relative to the projections that we currently have. Starting with Baker Mayfield. He is playing arguably the best defense in the history of the NFL on Monday Night Football against the 49ers.
The blatant suck up to Stefon is impressive. I have to admit you.
Do you have numbers that suggest it's not the best defense of all time?
I do, but listen, they've played well. I mean, give credit where credit is due. This is a team that has played that's played very well. And they by the way, they've also had 2 weeks to prepare for this Field, right? So it's they're back at home on Monday Night Football, the 49ers. They've had 2 weeks to prepare for this. And then you think about the 49ers, right? They're 4th in average time possession. So the Browns aren't going to have that many possessions here. They allow opponents to complete just 57% of passes. That's 3rd best in the NFL. So far this year, they're the 6th best pass defense in the NFL. And then you think about Baker Mayfield, who even last week, people were like, oh, he was on the hate list last week and you got that wrong. I actually didn't. He finished under his projection last week. Now, it was by a tenth of a point, but he still finished under his projection. It was still a W, and so he's projected at 16.1 fantasy points. I'm taking the under there. Other hates on the list. Wayne Gallman against the Vikings. For anyone that's thinking like, oh, the volume is just so insane. Yeah, he'll get some volume, but Vikings just so good. They've allowed 1 rushing touchdown so far this season. They're allowing the 5th fewest yards per carry after first contact. And again, they're the 8th slowest offense. I just don't see a lot of different possessions here. I think less possessions for both teams because both teams will sort of dial it back. And the last one for me, DJ Moore against the Jaguars. You know, I'm a little bit nervous.
Bad week last week, yeah.
Bad 2 weeks with Kyle Allen. Again, it's all small sample size, but with Kyle Allen under center, and he's going to start again for Carolina this Sunday, his target share, DJ Moore's target share is 12%. When it was with Cam,
that sounds low.
When Cam Newton was there, it was 28%. I mean, so he's not getting a ton of targets. You know, he's got 4 catches in 2 games. DJ Moore does, and then we'll see if Jalen Ramsey plays in this game. And I put in my column, in my love-hate column, I said, if Jalen Ramsey doesn't play in this game, I would take DJ Moore off my hate list, right? But again, they're so good. A.J. Boye is also really good as well. My belief is the way you attack Jacksonville is the middle of the field. I think this is a Christian McCaffrey and Greg Olsen game.
I don't disagree with that call whatsoever. Now, if you're watching on the video stream and you want to hear some great trash talk, this is your time to be watching right now. We're going to come back in just a minute and do something called Field and Stream. Very innovative. But first, have a laugh.
I might be second to last in the league, but you know what? I downloaded the app this week, so I'm ready, and it's not my fault that Saquon got injured and Edelman's not performing. That's not my fault. And Mackey, you're a son of a...
Elizabeth Huggy Bear Olsen. Yes, people, I call Elizabeth Huggy Bear. Yes, now you know it. I took you to your first football game. You remember that? I bought you popcorn. You sat with popcorn, butter, all over your face. Do you remember that? It was us. Anthony, Elizabeth, against the whole stadium. You're gonna use players' names. You're gonna bring up my man Saquon. So this is just offensive. This is what it astonishes me. You bring up your roster, okay? Now, this is what I thought of your roster. I want you to look right at the bottom of that.
He's Field Yates.
Production value is up. Creativity is up. It's time now for some Field and Stream. I wonder why we would call it that. Matthew had no idea.
Who came up with the name Field and Stream?
I did. Yes.
Because I thought it might be Daniel. Daniel, of course, is the creator of Clay, Squirrel, and Smizzle.
Right. So I had been thinking about a name for like several months. The only reason why we haven't done this before is I hadn't thought of it until right now. Mm-hmm. So after much contemplation, I finally thought
you workshop this. You're like, my name is Field.
Yeah.
What goes with Field? What's a pun? What's a clever sort of streaming kind of thing? And there's a popular magazine called Field and Stream.
Right. One of my favorites.
Right. Sure.
Still a subscriber.
Yeah. Are you really?
Yes, I am.
Who's on the cover this week? This month?
It's a fly fisherman.
I was just going to say some fly fishing guy. You can't go wrong if you say that.
Wearing nice,
right.
Yeah.
Right. That he's in a stream somewhere.
Are you a fashion advisor for Field and Stream?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
Although fly fishermen don't necessarily have to dress particularly fancy for their
but if
their
they
endeavors.
Would take tips from you.
Are you a fly fisher? Do you fish?
I fish. I don't fly fish, which I should because my father-in-law is like the king of fly fishing.
Colorado
the guy is like lives on the river
and
the mountains. I know.
Yeah.
I'm a bad son-in-law. I'll work on that. If I've only been doing this for like 3 months, I got plenty of time to get better at this.
Fair.
All right, Field and Stream. So I'm going to give you guys a few players that are not rostered in close to 50% of leagues that I think are viable starters or considerations.
Thirsty
this
Kyle
week.
corrects you. The 2 deer are on the cover this year.
Kyle,
Yeah, we fact check around these parts.
There you go. Nice job, Kyle.
Now
There
you know
We
who's got
fact
your
check.
back,
You're
Field.
looking at the digital edition. I'm not talking. You're not the one that's currently on stands. Everybody knows the one that matters is the one that's actually on
So
stands.
here we go.
right
If
now.
everyone didn't get the premise, so his name is Field Yates.
Yes.
And he's going to give you people to stream.
Yes.
We get all
How about that?
Field and Stream. Ladies and gentlemen, the debut edition of Field and Stream. Mr. Yates, take it away.
Quarterback Jacoby Brissett, the only quarterback in the NFL to throw multiple touchdown passes in all 4 weeks this season. He's been at least 16 points in each game as well. We talked earlier on about how the Chiefs have really struggled, and you're going to have to keep up with them because their defense, not great. Their offense is equally great. Kansas City hasn't exactly played the toughest quarterback so far this year, but they've allowed 17.5 quarterback points in 3 of 4 games. Last week we saw Matthew Stafford pierce them. We've seen them be really effective. Remember that one game where I don't believe, or actually Gardner Minshew in his week 1, he came in relief of Nick Foles and had a big day. The Chiefs can be had. Jacoby Brissett's available in close to 47% of leagues. We all have him as a top 10 play this week.
I'm starting him in a lot of leagues this week.
Now, there are funnels at certain spots, and I need to actually adjust my own rankings for this, but the Cardinals are a weird funnel against tight ends. I always talk about a tight end stats in a lot of ways, don't really move the needle for me, but a tight end has scored over 18.5 points against Arizona in all 4 games this season. Greg Olsen, multiple touchdowns. Mark Andrews, 25-plus points. TJ Hawkinson, 25.1 points. Our guy, Will Dissly, 18.7 points. So, next up is Tyler Eifert. Eifert, who's been so far this year for the Bengals, but we think they can move the football against the Cardinals, and we think the tight end is an area that can expose this Cardinals defense. Tyler Eifert, a player to seriously consider as well. He's available in 82% of leagues.
I'll just say this. We're such creatures of recency bias in fantasy football, and everyone saw that Monday night game where the Bengals just looked awful. And so understanding with a caveat that when you trust a Bengal, you get boned, I'm going to say that I think home game, 1 o'clock, after being embarrassed on national television, Cardinals have to travel cross country for a 1 o'clock Sunday game, games in Cincinnati. I think the Bengals ball out this week. I think Joe Mixon has a big game. I think Tyler Eifert has a big game. I think Andy Dalton could have been a viable quarterback choice for Field and Stream.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I think Eifert is a viable tight end streamer as well, and we'll get to him a little bit later in the show. But Auden Tate, I think, is somebody else that could have made your Field and Stream list here.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll talk about Auden Tate a little bit later on in the show, Matthew, so don't spoil the rest of it. Okay.
Spoil the show is what I do. That's on brand for me.
Two defenses of note, and maybe we're a little bit too late on one of them because the Eagles, who have been added in nearly 20% of leagues this week, play the Jets, who will officially, God bless you, Starfania, be without Sam Darnold, who has been ruled out because of mono for Week 5. We knew this was a very likely possibility, given how he said yesterday, basically like, I need to protect my spleen.
Yeah.
Even though I'm making progress. And so no Sam Darnold. The Eagles, I know they've been added in 20% of leagues, but they're still available in 35% of leagues more. Like that's, at least give yourself a look. The other defense is the Panthers, who are available in over 50% of leagues. Did you know the Panthers are tied for the league lead in sacks this season with 18?
I did know that. I knew that.
Gardner Minshew has been awesome.
I have the Panthers defense in a lot of leagues.
I just want Field to know I learned from his segment.
Well, thank you, Stefania. I appreciate you
Third best
listening.
defense in fantasy over the last 2 weeks.
They've been really good. And you know how we've seen all this Minshew magic, him like navigating the pocket and making ridiculous throws like the one against the Broncos last week? Part of the reason why that offensive line is still not great in Jacksonville. I like the Panthers as a streaming defense for this week. Yeah. And maybe more weeks going forward.
And by the way, so you're like, oh, Panthers, who they shut down the Texans last week.
Right.
I mean, the Panthers defense is legit. Credit to Ron Rivera and his staff.
They've done a nice job.
They've done a really nice job.
All right, Stefania, time now for your quick hitters. So I'm going to let you just have at these. Hack away, beginning, of course, with Mr. Saquon Barkley.
I know.
Not expecting him to play.
A lot of excitement about Saquon Barkley being out at practice. And actually, if you catch all the video clips, people talk about him running and cutting. But I'm going to tell you the thing that impressed me the most was neither of those things. It was actually when he was doing the warm-ups and he was doing some deep squats, because that actually stresses the area of the high ankle that was injured more than just about anything else I saw. So the fact he was doing that made me happy. He sounds good, but I would expect that he will sit this one out.
So,
not quite ready.
Just to be clear, what impressed you the most about Saquon was his deep squats.
Yes.
Right? Fair?
Mm-hmm.
Saquon's deep squats. You're a big fan of.
Because it was stressing the ankle in the place where he was injured more than I think some of the running and light cutting that you saw.
That is why you like the deep squats. Got it.
Yep, got it.
Understood.
Okay, glad you understand.
I liked it just because I think he's hot.
Wow.
He's a good-looking dude.
He just looks good when he's doing those squats.
He's a good-looking dude. Like I'm like I watch them look at squats.
He's
I'm
very
like,
fit.
oh my god.
He's a really good athlete.
He's got quads to die for. He's got quads to die for.
You know, you should take a chapter out of the Saquon book. Anyway, moving along.
I could take a lot of chapters. I could take the entire book. I don't need to take chapters out of the Saquon book. I could take the entire novel.
Before we ask for Matthew to be doing squats, can we just get him in the gym? Get your key access.
I know.
A few more years.
I want to have medical personnel on standby.
Davante
Adams. Toe injury that did not look good at the end of the week, not practicing. I don't expect Davante Adams to play in this game. So, stand by. Luckily, this is not the kind of turf toe that requires surgery. I think that we could see him back sooner rather than later, but I don't think it's going to be this week. Julian Edelman's already played with the chest injury that he had a couple weeks ago, but we saw that he wasn't fully himself last week. Still definitely hurting from that, still limited in practice. I don't think there's any doubt that Julian Edelman plays, but how much we see of him and how comfortable he is, and they may just not need him that much depending on how things go with Washington. And then Jarvis Landry, obviously, they're not playing until Monday night, but limited Thursday. That's the only practice report we have. Good sign that he was actually even doing something
Stephania,
on Thursday.
I have an update for you on Jarvis Landry.
I was going to say, for what it's worth, Jarvis Landry
cleared
is
concussion
tweeting.
protocol.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
He's cleared.
While I'm doing work, you guys are also doing work and getting this.
Well, you're on the air right now.
Actually, I think what's happening is that while you're doing work, Keith's just like scrolling through Twitter. And just something relevant came up.
Dig at the 49ers' potential chances on Monday. Do you think that's what he's doing?
No, I mean, just Keith's sitting there scrolling through Brown's Twitter. You have no idea. Like he's just like, hey, Jarvis Landry,
and then he just
really found something relevant to what we're talking about here. But he's mostly just in there like.
Share the tweet, Keith.
It's a Mary Kay Cabot tweet.
Oh, and she is money on Brown.
She said cleared concussion protocol, expected to practice today.
Well, there you have it, people. And if that's really good news for them, because a lot of times for Monday night games, you don't hear that about players until Saturday.
Sure.
So there you go. You heard the breaking news right here. And then Mark Andrews still on the injury report because of his foot, but we've seen him play and seen him be productive despite that. So again, expect Mark Andrews to be out there.
All right. Thank you for that, Stephania. Let's get to a couple of long shots. Matthew, you just mentioned him earlier on. You tried to spoil the podcast because you're basically the LeSean McCoy of this show, you big jerk. It's a spoiler show.
I get it. I was just trying to think of okay, go ahead.
You were befuddled right there. Auden Tate for the Bengals.
I spoiled that. I spoiled that. I was just like, what did I spoil? Like, I mean, I ruin. Like, I could see someone saying, like, ruined the podcast.
You've ruined a lot, but you try to spoil the podcast. Auden Tate for the Bengals. You think has a chance to step in here and make a little bit of an impact against the Cardinals.
Yeah, I like Auden Tate, right? I mean, so you think about this. I mean, 10 receptions, 138 yards. On 16 targets over the last 2 weeks. John Ross been placed on IR.
Yep.
And so going up against a Cardinals defense that's allowed a touchdown on 7.1% of passes thrown out wide. That's the 7th highest rate. And Tate both plays inside and outside. He sort of moves all over here, but I don't know. Like, he actually ran 42 routes on Monday night, same number as Tyler Boyd. And again, no dude, John Ross. So it's like it's a very narrow target tree here in terms of like it's Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, it's basically
it's Auden Tate, and it's like, I guess, Tyler Eifert to an extent. But in a great matchup against the Cardinals at home, I think Auden Tate is a great kind of streamer this week. I think he's a dirt cheap DFS play. Did he get mentioned on Clay Squirrel and Smizzle?
Did we talk about him? You bet we did.
There you go.
$3,500 on DraftKings.
See, there you go. Dirt cheap. There
My
you go.
one concern about bringing up both Auden Tate and KeeSean Johnson, who we'll talk about in just a second, is I feel like I have a weirdly large investment in a game between two teams that stink.
Yep.
They stink. They're both terrible. Neither one of them could lay an egg in this game on Sunday, and neither one of us, or none of us, I should say, would be surprised. But we'll go to KeeSean Johnson in just a minute. And by the way, not KeeSean Johnson, the longtime NFL wide receiver. Stephania.
And our current colleague.
Correct.
Right.
Christian Kirk, sorry.
Hang on. I was going to say about that. I hear what you mean, the two terrible teams, but for whatever it's worth, like the over-under is 48. Like Vegas is expecting a lot of points to be scared. Like it's two terrible teams, but it's also two terrible quarterbacks. I'm sorry, two terrible defenses. It's two terrible defenses and two quarterbacks that, for the most part, have been, above average this year.
Sure.
I mean, his Monday night meltdown aside, Andy Dalton's been good this year from a fantasy perspective. They're throwing a ton.
Yes, they are. So, Stefania, let's talk about the Cardinals because Christian Kirk doesn't sound like he'll be available for maybe a couple weeks.
Ankle injury, did not practice Wednesday or Thursday, and I think that you can expect Christian Kirk to sit this week.
He actually leads the Cardinals in terms of target share at 22.6%, which leads us to KeeSean Johnson, one of 3 wide receivers the Cardinals drafted this year. Now, we know that one of them, Hakeem Butler, is on IR. Andy Isabella has not necessarily found his footing yet, and part of that maybe is because they want to play the slot. Larry Fitzgerald still gets slot snaps. Who knows? But KeeSean Johnson,
they said this week that Andy Isabella is going to play some outside, so we'll see. But I know there's a lot of people that absolutely love Andy Isabella. KeeSean Johnson is the non-Larry Fitzgerald Cardinal you want this week.
I think so as well. And again, these are long shots. These are dart throws. These are players that if you're desperate, you're in a pinch, you forget. You have some sort of lapse where you forgot to add somebody that you were planning on picking up on waivers, or you have a really aggressive league and you're looking for someone that might not otherwise be rostered. These are a couple of names to note. We talked about how bad this Bengals defense is, how bad this Cardinals defense is. I know I said I'm worried about either one of these teams laying an egg, but also, as Matthew said, it's possible that this game could be high scoring because seemingly neither team has much interest in slowing an offense down. KeeSean Johnson, a name to keep in mind. All right, Keith, we're going to have to try to fire through. Let's see if we can get a bunch of names in here through social questions, rapid fire style.
Yes, sir. Cowboy Sam wants to know, considering his health and the bad matchup, should I just sit Terry McLaurin this week?
Yes.
We talked about this yesterday, but the answer is yes, I would.
And by the way, I do think that he's going to play this week. He's been ramping up his work in practice, so there you have it. If he does play, they say sit him anyway.
He's going to be shadowed by Gilmore, and I just, we don't even know who's going to be the quarterback for the Redskins. It's just
not only do we not know, but your coach doesn't even know. I mean, that's how bad it is.
My gut call is it's Colt McCoy.
Yes.
That's my gut is it's Colt McCoy. But we'll see. We'll see. I tell you who I pray as a Redskins fan that it's not Dwayne Haskins because we're going to ruin this kid. We're going to ruin this kid. Like, he's not ready and the team isn't ready. You got to put a kid in a position to succeed. And at home against a crappy offensive line with no other weapons around him against the Patriots is not a position to succeed.
Flex question from Garrett wants to know Calvin Ridley or David Montgomery, PPR.
Mike had some confidence in Calvin Ridley yesterday. Mike feels as though maybe he can get it going. I challenge the Falcons. Can they get it going? Because, gosh, they have so much talent.
Crazy.
But the touches are more guaranteed for a running back. I think I lean towards David Montgomery.
I think I lean towards David Montgomery as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Calvin Ridley's been so up and down, and could he do it? And it should be a high-scoring game against the Texans, but I would feel more confident about David Montgomery against the Raiders. Even though I talked him down a little bit earlier, yeah.
Lesser of two evils.
Yes.
One Pride Kurt wants to know, is Tyrell Williams a flex play against the Bears?
Hang on for a second. So we already had a question from Cowboy Sam.
Yes.
And now One Pride, are these all Detroit? Is this, did Daniel just go through all his Detroit Lions Twitter?
Heaven forbid that my friends who care and support me actually watch the show on a daily basis.
I'm just asking. I just want to know, are these social questions or is this Daniel's friends questions?
No, these are social questions, and my friends watch every day on Twitter, also available on YouTube, Facebook, and the ESPN app in case you want to watch us there as well.
That's true. The ESPN Fantasy Facebook page and the ESPN channel on YouTube to be a little bit more clear there. But all right, what's this? Yeah, One Pride, Matt Patricia.
Kurt.
What's going on? Yeah. Kurt?
Is Tyrell Williams a flex play against the Bears?
Well, before we get to that, Stefania, tell us, is he going to play?
You have to make sure that he's going to play. Now, this game's in London, but obviously kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern. Already designated questionable for the game, but he has not practiced yet. Has not practiced at all over there. There's still some people who think that he has a chance to play. I think they're hoping that he's better enough to play, but it's a foot injury. I don't feel great about it.
No, and then
I'd
you think
sit.
about the matchup with the Bears. Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm looking elsewhere.
Chase wants to know if he's crazy for considering Alshon over JuJu this week.
Not at all,
No.
Chase.
Not crazy at all.
Not
No.
crazy at all. We talked about our concerns with JuJu earlier on in the show, and Alshon and the Eagles get the beat-up Jets. They're terrible on defense. This
Yeah.
could be a cakewalk.
Could be a
be a
big
game.
for him.
And by the way,
Cakewalk on
no
Philly.
Deshaun Jackson once again this week.
Yep.
So it should be
Still
a
struggling with that.
right.
core
Should be a
injury.
nice game for Alshon Jeffrey.
The People's Champ. Now it's P-E-E.
I didn't see
P-L-E-S.
Okay,
Oh.
got it. I was gonna say I didn't tweet the show, but
Should,
all right.
should I fire up Mike Williams this week or just wait until he has a big game before putting him back in my lineup?
Well,
Vanya?
Yeah, I'm a little nervous about Mike Williams. He's been limited in practice. Obviously, he had the back issue that kept him out last week. Don't forget, he had a back injury that cost him most of his rookie season. I think the belief is that he has a shot to play. And they're looking for somebody to play, right? Because Antrell Inman now on injured reserve. Travis Benjamin has a hip issue that's been bothering him. He missed last week. We don't know if he'll be able to go. So maybe Mike Williams will be out there. We're going to know more after today.
okay, interesting.
Chris wants to know, flex question, MVS or Damian Williams this week?
Ooh, good question there.
That is a tough
That's
one.
a
And by the
tough
way,
one.
just props for having that decision at your flex.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously, that's nice right there.
It's a nice team there.
I'm going to lean towards Damian Williams.
I was just gonna say, yeah.
Volume.
Volume
Damian
of
Williams, higher score game, better matchup. Cowboys have a very good defense as
Yeah.
well, and so I like both guys this week. I definitely like both guys this week, but it's a little nervous starting a guy off of injury. But he practiced fully yesterday as well. Stefan, it seems like you have full confidence in Damien playing.
I think the 2 back-to-back days certainly gives me more, unless
Yeah.
there's something surprising today.
So I'm going to go with Field here. I agree. Damian Williams for me.
Strictly Biz wants to know, and this is not related to all Biz, I don't believe.
Yeah.
gonna say,
Best follow on Twitter at all_biz.
Looking for a streaming defense. Now, in this person's league, clearly the Titans are available is what he's asking about. They're only available in 20% of ESPN leagues. So you can answer that question if this is a good play for them. But the question I would ask is about Josh Allen, because it says if Josh Allen doesn't play, are the Titans a sure thing?
Well, he's one that has been limited in practice. Obviously, the concussion last week, and I was surprised that he was out there as early as Wednesday. So still has to be cleared by the independent neurological consultant. That's what Friday will bring, theoretically. So today, a big day to find out, but he's been out there doing some work.
And they have not yet added the quarterback,
Yep,
no
that's
workouts,
the
no
other thing you look
tryouts.
for, right.
That being said, even if he plays,
Yeah.
Titans at home, I like that defense. It's a decent streaming option this week if you are part of one of those leagues that they are available, which is only 20% on ESPN.com.
And this game is literally the lowest over-under on the slate. We expect this to be a very low-scoring game.
We're going to finish strong here with Kevin. What is more likely, Field grows a beard or Daniel shaves his?
Well,
That is a
given that
great
one thing
question.
is possible and one's not, I think the answer is Daniel shaving his beard.
Wait,
I would.
you think that's possible?
No,
That's not
yeah, I was
possible.
going to say, I would have
What's
picked
more
Field growing a beard.
likely?
How
Yeah.
would you expect that to happen? Like
Like-
how?
Well, yeah, I'm looking at you now.
Define
You
beard.
have you
if get
have a little
few
scruff.
hair, if you get
I haven't shaved since Sunday.
Right.
And like this is a little scruff.
If you get a few
You literally haven't
hairs
shaved
growing
since
in-
Sunday? I have to shave every day
I
in my
shaved
life. It drives me crazy. I was going to say,
I shaved
think
yesterday.
I think both are unlikely, but I think that there's a better chance of like you and Chapin, going
you
to
coming in with
like.
a full beard. Like
I know. That's right. It's
fantastic.
You know what? I have a few wishes in life. I would love a picture of Daniel and James Harden next to each other.
okay.
That's the real beard inspiration we need right now. You know that? Can we make that happen, Daniel?
I'll tell you what. This is a real quick story. I was in New York 2 years ago doing an interview with the commissioner of the NBA. No big deal. And Russell Westbrook was there, and he came up and he was like, "Looks like we got a Harden fan over here, huh?"
Is that right?
Really?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's pretty awesome.
All
All right.
You know, you should have said, Russell, no, it's me. Me,
What?
James.
No, it's James.
James.
Come on, Russ.
See if he falls for it.
Pass me the ball.
Yeah. Come on, I'm
New
open.
teammates.
I'm
Yeah.
open.
Well, since you and Russ are good friends,
By the
then maybe
way-
you can turn that into, you can just go to a Houston game, tickets
Yeah.
on Russ.
See what I can do there.
Courtside
If I
seats.
can't get tickets on Russ, I might be able to find them on SeatGeek, though. You know?
Good call,
There
Daniel.
you
Well
go.
done
I will
there.
tell you this about Secret Squirrel, by the way. Secret Squirrel, secret sharpshooter. He has, in addition to the beard, he also has a killer 3-point shot.
Rainmaker.
I have
Make it.
played pickup basketball a few times with Daniel Dopp. He is a much better outside shooter than you would think.
I would not have known that.
More Reggie Miller than James Harden, your game. But
I'd agree with that.
Yeah. But he comes off a screen, gets a ball, and drains a three like you would not believe. It's unbelievable.
Something
We need to
new
get video of
today.
this.
Yeah.
We are back on Monday, of course, to recap all the things that take place later on this weekend. In the meantime, Fantasy Football Now is on Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on ESPN2. Let me make this one promise. We're entertaining. We're fun. We have 3 hours. We try to get you as much information. All the injuries that are hanging in the balance right now, we'll have some clarity on by the time that show starts or by 11:30 when inactives for the early games are announced. In the meantime, find Matthew and Stephania on social media. Matthew Barrett TMR. She's Stephania B87 on Instagram. It's Stephania_ESPN on Twitter. We're back on Monday. Talk
Peace out.
It's no secret, not a mystery. The one that we depend on for all our podcast needs. Graduate, Full Sail U, Alliance fan through and through. With the hippest beard, I'm telling you.